briefly government set prices. I'm going to look at government set prices. Now here's the thing. As I said before, in my heart of hearts, I think the government has noble intentions. They really are trying to help somebody. And what they do is, they look at a particular situation and they determine that they're going to intervene and fix something. So here's how it works. There are pretty much two ways, generally, that they can intervene. The first one is what we call a price ceiling. I'm going to explain this. So the first one is a price ceiling. And a price ceiling is a maximum legal price set by the government. And no one can go higher. If you go higher than the ceiling, you are breaking the law. That's the idea. A price ceiling, some maximum legal price set by the government. Let me show you what's going on. There is our market. The maximum legal price set by the government, and no one can go higher. That's a general idea. What's happening with the price ceiling is, here's our market. This is our equilibrium. Let's label it P star. With a price ceiling, the government looks at this and they go, you know what? I don't like P star. They look at this and they go, you know what? P star as a price is too high. They look at this and they go, I don't think it's fair that consumers have to pay P star for this good or service. So what they do is, they go in, they intervene, they pass a law, and they put a price in place to help the consumer. They say, this price is too high, so I'm going to go in, and I'm going to set the price at, let's call it P ceiling. If people want to go lower, that's okay, but legally, nobody can go higher. If you go higher than this P ceiling, you are breaking the law. The government is not happy with P star. They think that price is too high. They go in and set an effective maximum price. People could go lower, but you cannot go higher legally. That's the idea behind a price ceiling. Not every price that's below equilibrium is a ceiling. We're saying specifically the government goes in and sets a price below the equilibrium. Usually the motivation is to make the good more affordable to consumers. Can you think of examples?
Housing, apartments.
What's that?
Housing.
What is it called?
Very good. Yeah.
A very good example is rent control. Absolutely, I agree. Rent control. And this is why I say, in my heart of hearts, I think the government intention is noble. They look and they go, you know what, housing is something that people need. Housing in certain areas, the price is increasing too high. And if the price is increasing that high, remember that guy, the rent is too damn high? I'm going to intervene and I'm going to make housing affordable. Now, rent control is not so much of a big deal out here on the West Coast, but on the East Coast it's a big deal. Out here, the version of rent control, you do have rent control in California, in some areas like Santa Monica. But the idea behind it is the government goes in certain areas and they put a cap on the percentage increase in rent annually. So they'll say, for example, per year, legally, if you're in the rent control zone, you cannot increase your rent above and beyond, usually it's a small percentage, 2%. So they kind of cap the percentage increase. But that's the idea. So this is why I say the intention is very noble, in my mind. And I do think that's the case. They need to make housing affordable. But we are in an econ class. And we know once you intervene in the markets, there's certain costs that you're going to have to bear. In fact, when the price is below equilibrium, what do we know will happen?
You'll have a shortage.
You're going to have a shortage. So, the government is making housing affordable, but effectively they put a shortage in place. It's a bit of a catch-22. Once you intervene in the market, realize that you're going to effectively cause some inefficiency, irrespective of how noble your intentions are. Let me give you a scenario. This is the rent control. We're going to set up a scenario. Santa Monica, because some areas of Santa Monica actually have rent control. The going market price for your, let's say, 2-bedroom apartment, when you check the neighboring communities, people not in the rent control, you could be getting, based on the market, let's say $4,000 a month for the 2-bedroom. However, because you're in the rent control zone, the government says you can only get $500. So the market says you should be getting $4,000, and the government says you can only collect $500. What do? And don't be like my other classes who say, oh yeah, burn it down, get insurance. What do you do? Legally, what do you do?
Sell the place?
That actually happens. Sell it and make them turn it into condos.
Yeah.
And again, you perpetuate the shortage. So the government intention is noble, but usually in that particular case, that could happen. Make the shortage even worse. What else do?
We just don't care about the tenants.
What's that?
We just don't care about them.
So,
Basically.
4,000. Government is forcing you to collect 500. I call you up as a landlord and I say, the roof needs fixing. Do you rush over to fix it?
No.
I call you up and say, oh, there's a hole and it's 20 below zero and I'm freezing. Do you come fix that? You go, hell no, I actually want you to freeze because I need you out of there. What happens is these particular buildings in rent control zones, they become dilapidated. The market is sending a signal that these things are worth 4,000. The government is intervening and forcing you to take 500. They've distorted the market. A lot of the people, or a lot of the buildings in rent control zones, the landlord becomes slumlords. Because you're supposed to be getting 4,000 and the government is forcing you to get 500. Oh yeah, you're going to live with a couple of rats because I'm not fixing that. There have been horror stories of where let's say a really old lady lives in the building, because usually they live there for years. The price is saying 4,000, but she's only paying $500. There have been horror stories where the landlord helps her down the stairs because they want them out. So the buildings, because the government has distorted the pricing, the buildings can become dilapidated. So you're making housing affordable, but at what quality? You're making housing affordable, but you effectively cause a shortage. Again, your intention might be very noble, but once you intervene in markets, there are certain costs that you have to bear. So any intervention in the market, you're going to have certain costs to bear. That's one example. Here's another way they can intervene. Government set prices. The other one, if it's not the floor, then what is it? Let it go. It's not the median, then it's the floor, the price floor. So the other one is the price floor. I know the price floor, this one is a minimum legal price set by the government. And no one can go lower. So with the price floor, this is some minimum legal price set by the government. And no one can go lower. So, let me show you what this looks like. Let's set this up. So here we go. That's our market.
Be above equilibrium, right?
Yes. That's our market. This is the equilibrium. The government looks at this and they go, you know what, I don't like P-Star. I think it's too low. I want to make sure the seller gets a good price. Now notice the difference. The price ceiling, the government is effectively trying to make sure that the buyer is okay. They want to make the good affordable. With the price floor, they're looking at this and they say, this price is too low. For whatever reason, I don't think it's fair to the seller. So I want to guarantee them, for example, a price that gives a fair return in my eyes. So they go ahead and they set the price above equilibrium. And this, in this example, we're calling it P floor. Can you think of examples?
Certain crops in farming.
I agree. The agricultural sector. I'll just lump it all together. Absolutely. Lots of price floors exist there. Yes? Any other example?
Minimum wage.
Absolutely. The minimum wage is another good one. A lot of students get confused with it. They say, I thought we were protecting the seller. You're the one selling your labor. And the government, for whatever reason, is saying, you know what? When you go to sell your labor, I might think you're at a disadvantage. You're going to be negotiating with a big company. They might say, for example, because usually the minimum wage pops in when we look at unskilled and low-skilled labor. They might say, for example, you go to the market to negotiate a wage with a big employer, and all you have is your high school diploma. I'm going to protect you. Because they might say, for example, oh, you only have a high school diploma, you really need a job? $2 an hour and this sandwich. And because you really need a job, you might say, yes. The government says, no, I don't think that's fair. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure when you go to the market and you sell minimum price. Let's say $15 an hour. Yes. How many people think the minimum wage is a good idea? That's it, you guys are, minimum wage is a good idea. Yeah.
Not at $15 though.
Yeah.
But the existence of a minimum wage, you think it's a good idea? You think 15 is too high?
I think so.
What's the minimum wage right now?
Like
$9? Okay, so minimum wage of $9. So let's use the 10. Unskilled and low-skilled labor. You're going to sell this labor. Remember, it's unskilled or low-skilled. You only have a high school diploma. You're going to sell it. The market says you should only be getting $6 an hour. Yeah? It's unskilled or low-skilled. But the government is protecting you, and they're saying that's not right. You can't live off that. I'm going to guarantee that when you go to the market to sell your labor, it's $10 an hour. That's good. Yes?
Or those low-skilled workers.
Yeah.
It's good for the low-skilled workers? Let me ask you this. When the price is higher than the equilibrium, what do we know happens? So this is the labor market. When we have a surplus of labor, what is that called?
Unemployment.
What's that?
Unemployment.
It's unemployment. So hold on a minute. I am ready to go sell my labor for $6 an hour. It's unskilled or low skill. I want a job. The market says I should be getting $6. The government says to me, oh no, you want to sell your labor, I'm going to guarantee you $10. And I say, what? Yes, I'm over there dancing. Like when the guys on Maury, they said, you are not the father, and they start popping and laughing. That's me. $10 an hour, that's what I'm going to get. So while I'm there dancing, they say, hold on a minute now. Even though I've guaranteed you $10 an hour, because the surplus of labor exists, you might not actually be able to find a job. Again, the government intention is noble. Full disclosure, I'm actually a big union person. I believe in the minimum wage. But I'm also a responsible economist. I do know there's a burden. The minimum wage actually protects or helps a person who's actually in the job. So if you're there, great for you. You should be getting $6 an hour, but the government has guaranteed you $10 an hour. That's great for you if you're in the job. If you're trying to enter, it's going to be a difficult task. The minimum wage actually hurts the unskilled and low-skilled individuals. The market is saying I should be getting $6. but the government is guaranteeing you $10, why not make a career out of this job? Why even bother getting your degree? I should be getting only 6, but no, I'm getting 10. In fact, the people trying to enter, people like you, who you're getting your degree and you need part-time work, because you gotta buy stuff. You're getting your degree, you need some money to buy your econ textbook because you have an exam next week. You need a little bit of a part-time job right now, and it happens to be that you're low-skilled and unskilled because you're a transitional worker. You're doing stuff. Unfortunately, it might be a little bit hard to get a job because of the existence of the minimum wage. Again, I think the government intention is noble, because some people say, $6 an hour, Kaycea, really? Can I live off that with the cost of living? And that's a legitimate particular issue. $6 an hour, Kaycea, really? The point is, anytime you meddle in markets, expect a particular burden. I don't care how noble the intention. You meddle with markets, you're going to cause a particular inefficiency. I'll do one more story with the example that Jason gave, the agricultural sector. Big price floors in that sector. I'll use milk. The market said, we don't drink milk like how we used to drink milk. I know when I was a child, every morning my mom would give me this big glass of milk. Drink it all. Drink it or else you won't have strong bones and teeth. Like, what does that mean? She said, drink it or your bones will break and your teeth will rot. I'm like, what? Let me drink this up. But you don't drink or consume milk like how you used to. So people put a little bit on their cereal, or they put a little bit in their coffee, that sort of stuff. So the demand is kind of low. But the farmers are still there producing the milk, so the supply is kind of there. Which means the equilibrium price is pretty low as it relates to milk. So for example, I'll just throw some arbitrary numbers. Equilibrium price in the dairy market, let's say it should be 60 cents a gallon for milk. That's the equilibrium. The farmer say, oh no, if I'm going to produce my milk and get 60 cents, you're not going to get me to do this. And the government says, no, don't worry. Don't worry about it. I'm going to guarantee you $3 a gallon for the milk. You're like, damn right you are. Prices are above equilibrium, $3 a gallon. What do we know will happen when we have a price above equilibrium? Surplus of milk. What do we do with that?
Cheese.
No, you say that as a joke, but the United States is actually one of the top producers of cheese.
It caused a surplus of cheese many years ago.
You have a surplus of milk, then one thing you need to do with it is, you have this surplus of milk. They're one of the top producers of cheese. By the way, I argue the United States should not be producing cheese. They're not the best. But what are you going to do with this surplus of milk? Make crappy cheese. What else can you do? So one inefficiency leading into another inefficiency. What else do you do with this surplus of milk?
Butter.
Dump it.
Butter.
Well, the cheese is where they stop. What's that?
Dump it.
They actually throw it away. Sir, we don't want it. We told them what we wanted. We want a little bit for our cereal and a little bit for our coffee. But because the government has distorted the incentives associated with this market, it's sending a signal to farmers to make, produce, and sell a lot of milk. But we don't want it. So what are they going to do? Well, they could make cheese and or they dump it. Now, let me ask you. The $3 that the government has guaranteed them, where's the government getting this money to pay for this milk? From whom? So, we pay taxes for milk that we don't want, so it can be thrown away. If you want a classic case of an inefficiency, that's one right there. Now again, their intention might be very noble. I get it. It's the agricultural sector. The United States, for strategic reasons, will not be a net importer of food. They're not going to be one of those countries where they're dependent on international or other countries for food. And I get it, for strategic reasons. If you ever go to war and your food is coming from other places, you're in trouble. Have you ever tried to do something when you're hungry? Try to fight a war when you're hungry, you're gonna lose. So they're not gonna be a net importer of food. They're gonna kind of protect the agricultural sector. Plus it has a very long and strong history. So it's not a sector that you're willing to let die. However, even though that intention is very noble and it makes sense from a strategic perspective, from an economic perspective, once you meddle with the markets, you're going to cause a particular inefficiency. So I'm not anti-government. I'm not putting any particular weight on whether these issues are right or wrong. Some of them I actually agree with, but I want us to be aware that from an economic perspective, the best outcome you could get is to leave markets and let them get to equilibrium. For whatever reason you want to change that or intervene, expect certain costs. That's the main thing I want you to get. Okay? Questions?